Hi, I'm Karen from Team TpT, and I'm here to share with you tips for helping busy educators find your resources. With search, we have an opportunity to help more educators find what they need. The fact is that most educators who come to TpT are leaving without a resource. We know that there are so many quality resources on TpT, and by making some improvements, we can help more educators connect with more of your resources. So from time to time, Team TpT will test improvements to our search experience to make progress towards that goal. Let's take a look at those best practices and some examples of do's and don'ts. First up, to help busy educators find your resources, we recommend using clear, descriptive language when listing your resources. Providing clear and relevant information in your product title and description will make it more likely for a buyer who needs your specific resource to actually be able to find it. Detailed titles and product descriptions also help buyers evaluate whether your resource meets their needs. Keep in mind that buyers search for unique phrases based on what they need. So, while some buyers will search for broader terms such as fractions, many more buyers will search for things like fractions on a number line, or multiplying and dividing fractions, or converting fractions to decimals. While you want to be as descriptive as possible, you'll want to make sure not to keyword stuff. Keyword stuffing is when you repeat a word in your description over and over again in a way that doesn't seem natural. Including a list of keywords at the bottom of the product description is also an example of keyword stuffing. Here's an example of a resource that has keyword stuffing in the product description. Note how it repeats ancient Greece and related terms over and over again in an unnatural way. Also note the list of tags at the bottom. Keyword stuffing doesn't help educators understand what your resources are about, and it could result in lower search rankings for your resources. Let's move on to our next best practice, which is adding previews to your resources. A clear preview goes a long way. Previews affect whether a buyer decides to purchase your resource or not. We've found that 62% of buyers say previews have the biggest impact on their decision to purchase. Take the time to add previews to your resources and show as much of the resource as you can. It's important for buyers to get a really clear idea of what's included and what they're getting. We've heard feedback from buyers that some won't even consider buying a resource if it doesn't have a clear preview. When thinking about what previews would be most helpful to potential buyers, know that buyers find readable sample pages really helpful. Some also find zoomed out composites that show a glimpse of all the pages in your resource helpful, but only alongside readable sample pages. We recommend including both readable sample pages and composites in your previews wherever possible. Tagging your resources with relevant grades. Only tag grades where you're confident your resource will resonate with teachers and students. Being selective in your grade tagging is actually better for ensuring your resource is seen by the right buyer, and tagging one grade is actually better than tagging 2 grades, and so on. Keep in mind that in previous testing, we've learned that buyers across every grade level purchase more when grade ranges tagged on resources are more specific. For resources that are not grade-specific, such as clip art resources, we recommend using the not grade-specific tag. If your clip art resources work better for a specific grade range, especially for younger or older students, we recommend tagging up to 4 grades. Don't over-tag grades on your resources. Doing so can actually make it more difficult for educators who are already searching up or down grades to find resources based on the needs of their students. We recommend tagging no more than 4 grades, so our search algorithm knows which searches your resources are relevant for. Note that we currently make exceptions in cases when buyers use a grade filter in addition to one of these subject filters: World Language, Special Education, EFL, ESL, ELD, or Music. In those cases, the search algorithm won't look at how many grades you've tagged on a resource. But even for resources in those subjects, we encourage you to limit to as few tags as possible because that's what's best for buyers. Over-tagging negatively impacts perceptions of TpT's trustworthiness and rigor. We've heard this feedback directly from teachers and administrators. Over-tagging could also result in lower search rankings for your resources. Last, but certainly not least, we recommend tagging your resources with relevant standards. Standards are important to buyers when they search for resources. Tagging your resources with the standards that they address will help buyers find what they're looking for. Tag your resources with Common Core State Standards, Next Generation Science Standards, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and Virginia Standards of Learning as appropriate. It's important to make sure your resource aligns in a meaningful way before tagging. For resources tagged with CCSS, buyers will be able to see equivalent state-specific standards. For example, a buyer living in Florida will be able to view a resource with its original CCSS tags and the equivalent Florida state standard tags. We also know that not all resources align to standards, and they don't have to. If you aren't familiar with US standards or your resources aren't aligned, that's okay. Let's review our 4 best practices. Use clear, descriptive language and avoid keyword stuffing. Add previews to your resources. Tag your resources with relevant grades. Tag your resources with relevant standards. If you want to learn more about these best practices, feel free to read our page on TpT University, which you can get to at bit.ly/TpT search advice. Thanks so much for watching. We hope this video was helpful in understanding how you can help more teachers find your amazing resources.